Welcome to Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. A world where coming in second place is not an option, but where principle-centered winning is the only approach.
Good morning and welcome to Government Contracting Weekly. I'm Jim McCarthy, the owner and technical director of Key Solutions and the host of this show. As we all know, software seems to be embedded not just in our computers, but in so many of the devices that we interact with as part of our normal lives. In fact, software is so omnipresent that it will always be an integral part of any government contract that you are either pursuing or trying to retain. To help us sort out the state of software today, including how we can measure performance, are two outstanding experts in the field. Our show opens with a conversation I recently had with Doug Putnam, the co-chief executive officer of Quantitative Software Management. And then after Doug, I'll be joined by Mark Weber, the president of the U.S. Public Sector for NetApp. As always, there's a lot to cover, so let's get right to it. Doug, it's great that you're here today. So do us a favor and tell us a little bit about your background and about QSM. Can you do that?
Yeah, sure, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here. QSM, we're a family business. My father started the company back in 1978, and sort of curious because he was an Army officer and by accident got involved in software because he took a Fortran programming course partway through his military career. But the first time when he was responsible for software and computer systems for the Army, they had to justify some budgets for the maintenance projects of some personnel systems, and he lost $10 million because they couldn't articulate why their budget was, so expensive. They had no idea. No idea. So as an engineer, he went out and sort of looked up and tried to come up with some quantitative methods for doing that. So he built a business around that, left the Army, built a business around that.
And the rest is kind of history then, right?
Kind of history.
What about your background?
My background, I joined him as soon as I graduated from school, was an apprentice for, I'd say, 5 to 7 years, and then worked my way up doing all different aspects, some of our product requirements and design, doing consulting work, the whole gamut.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. The QSM stands for Quantitative Software Management. So I'm just wondering, is there a qualitative such thing? And what's the difference between quantitative and qualitative and measurements? And does it matter? What's the difference?
Sure. Well, the quantitative part is all about putting numbers around projects and around the products that we're doing. And the qualitative part is a little bit more about the attributes of those products and the characteristics and the methods and the skills of the people that produce those products. So when you can marry the quantitative numbers with the context of the qualitative, it really puts you in a pretty powerful position when you get to the point where you have to negotiate.
Okay, so this question I would ask you, and believe me, it's no disrespect intended whatsoever, but why does it matter? Why is software measurement and software management, why does it matter? What does it mean to our audience out here?
Sure. Software is in everything. In our lives today. It's in our devices, it's in our appliances, it's the way that our businesses interface with the world, it's the way that we operationally run our businesses. When things go bad on software projects, it goes really bad. And people's reputations and businesses' reputations can be adversely affected. When they go right, it's a wonderful thing. If you looked at the best example I can think of there is if you look at Apple and their consumer electronics, the iPods, the iPads, the iPhones. They built some innovative solutions. They were the first to market. They built just enough functionality that was useful that people loved, and it propelled them right to the top of that market segment.
I was going to observe what's Apple ever done, you know what I'm saying? but I won't. Okay, so one of the perspectives that I've had, and I could probably be wrong, is that traditionally there have been a limited number of metrics that are used to measure performance, maybe quality, cost, schedule. But are there different metrics, other metrics that are now more important in terms of doing business?
I think that our philosophy has always been about being minimalist in this, and we think that there's sort of a core set that you need to do a good job in this whole sort of estimation project planning. It's capabilities or functionality, time, cost, and reliability. So those are the core, and we feel like you can do an enormous amount of good with just that basic set of information. If you understand the relationships between those variables and the trade-offs that exist.
And what happens if you do understand the relationships and the trade-offs and the variables and so on?
There's some extraordinary economics. If you can look at taking a project and taking a little bit more time by using fewer people, you can drastically reduce your cost and improve your quality. You know, if you're forced in the other direction, it can work just the opposite way for you. So there's a lot of economic leverage that's available.
It sounds like you're saying it can help business and government make better decisions.
Absolutely.
You agree with that?
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's all about looking at those alternatives. All too often we find that decision makers are presented with one number. There's a range, there's different ways that you can approach this. There's a range of potential solutions. So you ought to look at the one that gives the best opportunity for all the stakeholders to win.
All right, thank you. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, we'll continue this discussion with Doug Putnam, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
So, did we win that government contract?
We did.
And?
And now we've got to deal with the regulatory hurdles.
Well, good luck with that.
When the government's your client, you need to play by their rules.
Ah, and the rules change more than you think.
Exactly. We need someone who's done this before. Plus, it's complicated, so we're going with BDO.
BDO?
People who know government contracting know BDO. AFCEA has been bringing government and industry together since 1946. By joining AFCEA, you will reach the decision makers and become part of the discussion. You'll increase market visibility, gain market insight, receive discounts on AFCEA member services and events, and manage and engage corporate associates. AFCEA is the association of choice. Join today at www.afcea.org.
Question for you. Do you lack an overall effective win strategy? Hi, I'm Jim McCarthy, owner of Key Solutions. For over 30 years, KSI has helped clients win or retain over $130 billion in government contracts by providing the keys to winning. Now, if you're chasing a must-win contract, go to our website, aockeysolutions.com, and click on Win. It's a tough market. Don't go it alone. Welcome back. I'm here with Doug Putnam from QSM. Doug, you were talking a little bit about how your company and your tools help decision makers make better decisions. How does that work? How do they do that?
Right. So, you know, in any project, there's always conflicting demands and resources. And so it's never the case that you can have all the functionality you want in the time frame that's available with the money that's
Right.
there. So there's usually 3 or 4 practical solutions. How much functionality can I give you in the time frame that you've got? If you want all the functionality, how much additional time is it going to take? If you want me to try to compress it a little bit, how much additional money is it going to cost?
So there's trade-offs involved.
There's trade-offs.
In all that stuff.
There's trade-offs.
All right, so let's look to the future for just a second. You know, we're seeing trends like mobility and big data and cloud 2 now, and cyber. These are all developments. How does the software measurement discipline fit into the future of just programming and software management?
Right.
Yeah.
So this is a big issue for us because there's always technology cycles. Every 3 to 5 years, you're rolling into a whole new set of technologies. And so we have to make our tools relevant, which means that we have a very active program for collecting historical data and analyzing it and trying to find out what the important parameters are to be able to forecast that reasonably. So for us, it usually boils down to learning the language of a new technology, what kinds of things we can measure that relate to the capabilities and functionality, and how it affects productivity.
Okay. So not to put you on the spot, but tune into your crystal ball for a second. What do you think is the future of your business? And by that I mean your market sector within the government contracting business. What's going to be the next big trend, big development? What is it that we should be on the watch for?
Well, I think right now it's definitely moving in the direction of cloud computing and shared resources and data centers. So I think that's an area, and I think mobility. Security is obviously huge as well.
That's
it's
huge.
a big problem with with all of our government systems and protecting that valuable information.
Yeah, and I know that this doesn't necessarily relate specifically to your expertise, but is our data safe overall in this country? What do you think?
I think you have to question that right now. I think there's a lot of intrusions that are coming from foreign governments, and we've got a long way to go to really lock things down and feel comfortable about it.
How about in the area of fixed price contracting? It seems to me that a robust set of metrics and measurements would help contractors manage better to a fixed price environment. Is that a correct assessment?
Absolutely, and I think that fixed price contracting is a great way to go in the government sector. It forces the suppliers to be efficient and effective, and all the risk is on them for delivery.
Okay, so let's pause for 1 second and just ask you this. If you could leave one takeaway for our audience here today, something that you'd like them to remember, what would it be, you think?
So there's two things.
One
is that you absolutely have to have a realistic schedule going in. That's the #1 cause of project failures that we see. The second thing is there's some extraordinary economics, and if you can just use a little bit more time and smaller teams, you can save a ton of money and improve the quality of your products. That's a big area right now with all the fiscal austerity going on in the government.
I tell you, I wish we had more time to explore that, because I think it's a very deep and rich subject. And maybe we can get you back on the show at some point. So anyway, thank you for being on this morning.
Love to come back. Thanks.
And we're going to step away now for a break, and we'll be right back. Thank you. I'm Jim McCarthy, the owner and technical director of AOC Key Solutions, and I invite you to join us and our partner, the Government Technology and Services Coalition, for the 2014 Mentor Awards presentation. The Mentor Awards recognizes exceptional individuals who have contributed to the success of our market by mentoring small businesses to provide the best innovation, professionalism, and expertise to our federal partners. The event takes place on June 12th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. in Arlington, Virginia. It will feature great food and festive cocktails. This is an excellent opportunity for you to network with both industry leaders and top federal government procurement officers. Individual tickets cost $75 or $50 for GTSC members. For more information or to register, go to gtscoalition.com/mentorawards. I hope to see you there. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jim. Appreciate you having me.
It's a great topic. We're really interested in talking about it. So let's begin with a sort of a basic question is, why is the government concerned about this issue to begin with?
Well, I mean, vendor lock-in is a big deal, right? Because if they get locked into certain products or certain architectures, their choice is gone, and their ability to create financial opportunities to have better solutions can go away. So the role of the CIO is critical in keeping vendor lock-in from happening.
And how do vendors sort of act in such a way that they are trying to achieve the lock-in somehow? Is that something that they deliberately, a deliberate marketing strategy, if you will?
I wouldn't call it a deliberate marketing strategy at all. I mean, any vendor is going to do their best to sell their value proposition, right? And their value proposition could feel like a lock-in, but it also could add a lot of value in what the organization's doing.
Right.
So, you know, their feature functions that might feel like special to them and they're the only ones that have them can add a lot of value too. So there's a give and take on, you know, the value prop of great products.
Well, I'm wondering if there is a lock-in that occurs, how does the government sort of change horses in midstream? I mean, suppose there's change of contractor, for example, and the government finds that it doesn't own necessarily all that it thought it owned. What is the the remedy at that point? What happens?
Well, it comes down to great contracts management, right? I mean, you have to create contracts in order to have flexibility to get in and out. Particularly, let's take example of the cloud right now. You know, if people go all in on the cloud and they put their data there, how do they get their data back out? Right? They could get locked in and not have any place to bring it in and out of. So you have to have good stewardship of your data. You have to control what you're doing. You can't let the vendors decide how you're doing it. So it comes down to good leadership, figuring out what they need to do.
What is the latest, hottest issue within the cloud? What are people talking about on the streets?
I think the biggest issue is data governance, right? Who owns the data? Right? When you think about it, you know, there's great economics on going to the cloud for compute and potentially network. But you put your data up there and you lose control of really your asset, right? That can be a big issue. How do you move it in and out? Data is heavy. Data's got a lot of gravity, as I'd call it. You have to manage that, and you just can't outsource that. So
how ready is the government to move towards the cloud, whether it be public or private or
you know, well,
or some
over 3 years
combination?
ago, Jim, they came out with cloud first, right? So we're 3 years into that, and there's been studies just as recent as last week that says the adoption has been pretty slow. That doesn't mean they're not doing it and not headed that way, but it won't be all in. I mean, there will still be people building systems, there'll be hybrid clouds, private clouds, public clouds, so it'll be a different environment all over.
In the minute we have remaining, can you sort of quickly discuss what are the relative merits of the private versus public versus a hybrid model? Why don't you go into that for us?
Well, sure. A public cloud is basically you're taking your assets and putting it up into the cloud provider. You're letting them manage the entire thing. So maybe you might do that for your website, right? Or something like that. A private cloud is basically you're taking all those tools of a cloud and building it inside of your organization. Maybe one organization is building it for others inside of a company, right? Or an agency. And a hybrid is really what I believe you'll see a lot more of, where you're using the compute of the cloud or the network of the cloud, but you still maintain the ownership and management of your data.
It sounds like you're talking about the best of both worlds, if you will, in a hybrid.
Well, sure. I mean, what is it that you're really out there to do? It's to manage data, create data, farm the data, get the value out of the data. So if you're the steward of your data, but still can get the value prop out of what the cloud can offer,
right?
It's a good business proposition.
Good business, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to step away momentarily for a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll talk about, continue our discussion on the cloud and what's happening there.
Okay, great,
Good,
Jim.
thanks.
AOC Key Solutions and the Government Technology and Services Coalition are pleased to announce that REI Systems, a firm that provides web applications, grant systems, and open government transparency websites, is a 2014 Mentor of the Year award winner. Nominated by ADG, REI has contributed significantly to ADG's growth by helping them win work for SBA.gov, as well as winning a STARS 2 award. REI also formed a joint venture to allow ADG to market their qualifications for additional work. REI Systems made ADG's employees feel like part of the family, offering office space, training, presentation support, and overall direction for back-office operations. On behalf of the Government Technology and Services Coalition and AOC Key Solutions, congratulations to REI.
Since 1941, the USO has been lifting the spirits of America's troops and their families. Members of our military continue to make sacrifices and defend our nation. That's why the USO of Metropolitan Washington, Baltimore is committed to serving them throughout their years of service. USO Metro is the way for you to say thanks to our local military members, their families, and our wounded warriors and caregivers. Please visit us at usometro.org.
Back here with Mark Weber from NetApp, and question for you to follow up on where we were. Let's talk about software as a service, okay? And I'd like to talk about that versus the building, let's say, a private or a public infrastructure. What are the pros and cons in your view of each?
So you have to define what software as a service is, right? You've decoupled software from the hardware infrastructure. That's kind of what defines software as a service. So why would people do that? Well, they don't want to be locked into certain infrastructure. You're having to build it or buy it, right? Software as a service allows you flexibility to go to the cloud or build your own infrastructure. So it allows you a lot of flexibility.
So it's a viable alternative then.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean,
when making that decision,
NetApp has been doing this for years, and other companies have too.
Okay, Mark, so when making that decision, what are the criteria that a company ought to use when making a sort of a build or buy decision with regard to this?
This is where the role of the CIO has drastically changed over the last many years. So they used to be builders of service, right? Build things. Now they have to decide, are they going to build, buy? They're really integrators of solutions now, right? They got to still build some things. They're not going all into the cloud, but then they'll have to figure out what they're going to buy, what they're going to build, how they integrate all those things in. So it's really, the CIO has even a more critical role in determining the future of those agencies and the financial viability and the flexibility and the value prop they have.
So asking you to sort of look into the crystal ball, I know there's no perfect answer, but do you think that the hybrid model that you've been referring, is that the wave of the future? Do you think that's where this industry is eventually going to head?
Well, what's the value of IT? It is managing and creating data. So data stewardship is really the main job of IT, right? So if you give up the control of your data and put it all in the public, or if you just have it all in the private cloud and you don't take advantage of the economics of the cloud, right? You're not going to gain the efficiencies you need. So really, data governance is, which is the hybrid cloud, controlling and managing your own data, but leveraging the public and private internal cloud, external cloud, is the critical, and I think the future.
Okay. Let's talk a minute about new entrants into this market. What advice would you have for a company that's seeking to, establish a footprint here?
Well, there's a ton of people that are entering the cloud business, right? Either as brokers or creators of service. They've got to differentiate themselves, right? A lot of people can stand up applications or just infrastructure, but what's your value prop? I really think people have to differentiate to determine where their value prop. And once you differentiate, you can sell a lot of other things to people, but you've got to find where your unique value is.
Okay, so fundamentally, what is NetApp's value prop?
Our value prop is data management. Moving that data around, managing the life cycle of data.
Huge volumes of data, right?
Big volumes. And I mean in a public, private, internal cloud, all of that data, if it's managed correctly, that's NetApp's value prop.
I see, okay. Yeah. Well, in the 40 or so seconds we have left, let me ask you to do this. Think about if you could give one piece of advice to the audience, the television audience, about what would be your one thing that you'd want them to walk away with? What is your takeaway?
My takeaway is manage your data, control your data. Look at the hybrid cloud, because that will allow you to manage your number one asset, and that's your data.
Mark Weber, thank you for being on the show today.
Jim, thanks for having me.
I'm sure our audience gained a lot of insights. I'm joined here today by Lauren LaMarche. Lauren is an executive coach and also a marketing proposal development specialist from AOC Key Solutions. Lauren, good morning.
Good morning.
Tell us about the Win Coaching concept. What is that all about?
Well, Win Coaching is an umbrella of services that KSI offers its clients that includes orals coaching, capture coaching, and now leadership coaching. And they are all designed to help our clients win more business.
Okay, so most people in the audience, they're familiar with the whole thing about, excuse me, about an orals coach, and so tell us a little bit more about what are the benefits? What do we expect to get from a Win Coaching or leadership coaching?
Well, leadership coaching, when we work with a client, we help identify their desired goals when it comes to the procurement or proposal process. And then we work with them to overcome any challenges that they are experiencing that are preventing them from reaching those goals.
Okay, so how about sharing with us what are some of the challenges that this would address?
It might be time management, it might be working with ineffective teams, it might mean managing stress due to a proposal environment. So we can help them overcome anything that's impeding progress.
And in theory then, if progress is being impeded, the chances of winning are also lowered, so it's important to fix that root cause.
Absolutely, because as you know, the success of a proposal response really rests on the effectiveness and the energy of your team. If your team is distracted, if they are stressed, if they are disengaged, you naturally lessen your chances of winning.
And this is a tough business, so people are often distracted or under pressure or under stress or under deadlines, right?
Absolutely.
So the Win Coaching and leadership coaching, as you've designed it then, how does it help fix that? How does it do that?
Well, we work with them to achieve their goals. So we're looking at whatever it is that's keeping them from reaching their performance, and then we help basically remove those blocks. And in doing that, you're transforming the process from being one that's really stressful and probably unpleasant to one that's positive and more creative, and that's naturally going to increase your chances of winning.
So do you give the people who are undergoing this course, do they get tools for this? What kind of tools do you use?
Absolutely. We do have a toolkit that KSI provides that we can use with our clients, and it will be based on on a case-by-case basis. We can customize the solution to whatever the client needs, and it can be anything from aim smart mapping, where you actually chart your course forward. It could be a matter of role-playing. There are any number of techniques that we could draw into that particular environment.
And the idea is, in the heat of battle, people will be able to use those tools in order to get on the same page.
Absolutely. Okay. And you can integrate this in a strategy meeting. You could do this at a kickoff meeting. We could go in and actually coach an entire team. We could train the proposal manager. There are any number of ways that we could go in there and utilize these resources so that they could improve their process.
How would it be part of a capture effort, do you think? How would that fit?
I think the more time that you integrate something like leadership coaching into the proposal process, the greater your chances for success. I would recommend, as soon as you know you're going after a pursuit, that you integrate this into your entire strategy. And then what that's going to do is you're going to notice that as your team is becoming more cohesive and collaborative, that you're going to notice a momentum and a change in the entire environment.
Lauren, I get it. There is a need for leadership coaching in our business, but it sounds expensive. What about the cost?
It actually isn't. In fact, it's designed to reduce the cost to the client and increase their probability of winning. We offer a variety of packages that can be customized to suit the specific client need.
Mm-hmm. And if our viewers want to learn more about this whole leadership coaching, how do they go about that?
They can visit us on the web at ksileadershipcoaching.com.
Okay, well, we want to thank Lauren for being here today. This is a very interesting product line, and we hope that you will enjoy it. I want to thank you, our viewers, for once again making Government Contracting Weekly a regular part of your learning regimen. On behalf of all my colleagues at Key Solutions, I'm Jim McCarthy, and I will see you next week.
You've been watching Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored each week by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. For additional information, comments, questions, or suggestions, please write us at governmentcontractingweekly.com.